Hey guys, Stuart0494 here. Just want to make a quick video on how to check the calibration on your torque wrenches. Did a previous review on a Caltech, something like that, torque wrench that basically wasn't worth the money. So what I have here is my 1/2" torque wrench from Harbor Freight, which is a Pittsburgh, and this is my 3/8. I just want to kind of walk you through, like I said, checking the accuracy of your torque wrench. First things first, you need some kind of weight to check it with. In this case, I took an old cat litter jug of my mother-in-law's and put some water in it, weighed it on a scale. It came up to 20.1 pounds. So that's what I use. I'm calling it 20 pounds. It's not going to be exact, but most of your torque wrenches are calibrated within 4%, plus or minus 4% of your torque setting or torque value. So, besides the weight, you need a tape measure. I use blue tape, just masking tape, and a marker. So basically, you start out, you're going to want to get a measurement from the center of your head back to where you put your hand. What I did in this situation was I took the measurement from where my grip was at, basically, took the center of that, and that's where I made my first mark. So on my 1/2" torque wrench, you'll see my first mark right there. It's 14.5 inches. I chuck this thing into my vise, keeping it as close to level or parallel to the floor, or however you want to look at it, as I could, just so your values aren't off. Wasn't a problem with the 3/8, the 1/2", the teeth are a little bit off, so I ended up offset about that far, which I don't think is going to make that much of a difference. So that being said, once I had it chucked in my vise, set both of them to 20 foot-pounds and hung my weight. This is a measurement we're going to call distance 1. With your weight on there, you're going to want to see you're either going to get a click or you're not. If you don't get a click, move it forward. Perfect. Click. Doesn't click, move it out. If it does click, move it in until it doesn't click, and that's going to be your second mark. So in this case, at my 14.5 inches, my torque wrench did not click. So I moved it out and thought I was going to have to put an extension bar or something on it, but I didn't have to. Right at the end of the torque wrench, I got a click at 20 pounds. So what you're going to do then is you're going to take your measurements and you're going to plug those into a formula. The formula in this case is, if you can read it on here, it's going to be torque applied, which is your 20 foot-pounds of what you're looking for, your torque setting, and then distance 1 divided by distance 2. So running this down on my torque wrench, I want it 20 foot-pounds. I set my torque wrench to 20 foot-pounds at a 20-pound weight. So at 14.5 inches, my original measurement, didn't get a click, so that was my distance 1. Distance 2 is where I did get a click, which was 16. Doing my math on down, I found out that the variance from what I was trying to achieve versus what I was able to achieve was basically 0.91. So by doing this, I know now that if I want 20 foot-pounds to torque a nut or bolt, what have you, to 20 foot-pounds, I have to set my torque wrench at 18 pounds, basically. You could, if you want to get real technical with the 125 thousandths or eighth of a pound, you can, but I'm not that worried about it. So basically, my torque wrench is accurate within 1%, give or take. So it's in spec as far as I'm concerned. But if I'm doing something that requires a technical torque value, I guess you'd say, I know that I take my torque setting that I'm wanting, 20 foot-pounds in this case, and I multiply that by 0.91, and that gives me 18 foot-pounds, which is going to be my new torque setting on my torque wrench, to get 20 foot-pounds. And then what I do is I take a piece of tape and I mark the inside of the lid of my box so that I remember that. You don't have to check this too often. Just anytime you're having questions or concerns with your torque wrench, it's not a bad idea to check the calibration of it. I basically started out doing this because I just purchased this 3/8 from Harbor Freight to replace the Cal Hawk that sucked, so I wanted to check how accurate this was. And kind of an off-the-cuff way of doing this is you could check both of these in the vise at the same setting, grab your handle at the same distance back, and see what you get, see if it feels right. But that now tells me the correction that I would need to make my torque wrench, or my torque setting. And here's my ginormous cat walking by. So, just kind of a visual drawing of that is I've got my center of my head, distance 1, distance 2, no click, what have you. And again, that formula is torque applied equals the torque setting multiplied by distance 1, distance 2 of your weight. Like I said, I use 20 pounds for this one. If you want to do 40, you can. 50 is not a bad idea to check your torque wrench in a couple of different settings. Real quick, a kind of food for thought type thing. My 3/8 torque wrench has a scale on it from 10 foot-pounds up to 80. So from 10 to 80. What that means is that's your torque range for that torque wrench. The bigger half-inch has a 10 to 150 foot-pound rating. Sounds all gravy. This thing should ideally do from 10 pounds to 80 foot-pounds. But keep in mind, your torque wrench is going to be most accurate in the middle of its scale. So like my half-inch torque wrench with a range or a scale of 10 to 150 foot-pounds is going to be more accurate, or most accurate, I guess you would say, at 80 foot-pounds. Does that mean I wouldn't trust it at 100 or at 25? No, not necessarily, but by checking your calibration at various torque settings, that'll give you an idea of what to expect as far as the accuracy of your torque wrench. So I know this was kind of quick and confusing, but if you have any further questions, leave me a post. Hopefully this was somewhat educational for you. Stay tuned.